We actually bought this door for another project, and then we didn't end up needing it for the project. We went a different route, and it's a smaller door. It's a skinny little door, but all those paneling, oh my gosh, is it just not gorgeous? But it's really not that wide. So one side of it is like the natural stained, and then the other side has been painted. So it's got a little bit of age to it, but it's just an amazing door. So I'm actually going to do some projects with this. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne and you have landed on a Ginger Chick Rehab, where I love to take secondhand finds and share the process with you, how I make these items over. In today's video, it is an old door. I am taking an old door and I'm making some projects out of it. So the one thing about this door is it does not have a doorknob, but it still has the mechanism in it, and I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm not going to tear it apart, ruin any of that beautiful patina. So we are going to cut this apart and make some projects out of it, which is a hard decision. I know, y'all. It's a very hard decision, but the center two are going to have to stay the same because are going to have to stay together because that's where the mechanism is. But the other panels, we're going to go ahead and cut them so I can use them as project pieces, kind of like a cabinet door. So here's where the measuring comes in, because you have the top that has so much of the board on the top of it, but then you have where you need to leave a little bit towards, so you can't make that even. So Chris is just gonna go ahead and cut in the middle of it, so I have multiple pieces that I get to work with. When I'm looking at the pieces, I have to decide, okay, so like, do I leave them that odd shape? Do I have a thicker side and a skinnier side? But I think I want to hang them the long way, so I think I'm just going to have him go ahead and cut off that excess so that both sides are even. So that leaves me 3 of these panels. Aren't they beautiful? Oh, I just absolutely love them. And I love making projects out of them. They're already beautiful, but we've got like where the new, you cut it so the raw wood is showing, so it's not the stain. And they're kind of on the dirty side. A lot of times these older doors have just sat in a barn, sat in weather. So I am going to be putting a coat of paint on them. I'm going to be using the Flour Sack Sweet Pickins Milk Paint, because I'm going to go for the cracking and crazing and chippiness and try to blend it all together, get it cleaned up, give it a little bit brighter of a look, because I don't know if the camera's really showing how creamy yellow it is, just to freshen it up. I knew I needed to make a good quantity, so I just tried to do equal parts and get it all stirred up. Stir it for 2 minutes and then let it sit off to the side and let it thicken up. So while that is thickening up, I'm going to go ahead and start to get these cleaned up. I just have a bucket of hot water, some Dawn dish soap, and I'm just going to get them wiped down. So when I was cleaning these up, I noticed this one had a little bit of a split wood issue, so I'm just going to use some of the CA glue and then just kind of try to get it underneath there without popping it off. Put a little bit of the glue, and then when I've got the glue on, I can use the CA accelerator, and that'll dry it in 15 seconds, and I can keep working on my project. I'm going to use a little bit of sandpaper just to make sure that everything is sanded down smooth, that there's no rough edges, it's not going to get caught again. And then I'm also going to take the 220 sandpaper around the edges where the pieces were cut. That way they are more rounded than sharp to the touch. I'm not even really sure if you'd even notice this after I painted it, but I'm going to go ahead and use some of the Waverly Antiquing Wax just to darken down those fresh cut marks. I'm using Sweet Pickins Milk Paint because I want a really distressed look. I want you to see some of that original paint. And to help it not really adhere all that well to it, I want it to adhere, but I want it to be chippy. I'm just going to use some candle wax all over the entire, like the entire front where it's been painted before putting on my paint. Now that I have my candle wax on, I'm going to be applying a heavy coat of paint. I'm not going to do too much like going over it, getting a whole bunch of like trying to get it thin or anything. This is not about that pristine paint job at all. I want to get it on, but I don't want to see brush strokes, and I'm putting it on heavy. So I did kind of mix my batch up so it was a little bit on the heavier side so that I'm only going to have to use one coat. So I have some accessories I want to add on to these panels. Now these panels, I want to make it so it's not going to be permanent. I'm not going to attach it necessarily permanently to the panel, as that you're going to be able to change it out. So in my recent thrifting adventures, look at these cute little snowshoes that I found. They're probably a new purchase good, but I thought, oh my gosh, would these not look so cute in a winter scene? I would like to tone down like the leather. I'm not sure if it's leather or not. It's really more of a purple looking. I'd like it to be a little bit more brown. So I'm going to go ahead and try to instant coffee dye it. I'm hoping that this works. So a little bit of instant coffee, a little bit of water, just make it into kind of like a paste. And then I'm just going to put it all over these little snowshoes, hoping it darkens up that leather and takes away that purple hue that's on it. I let my paint dry naturally overnight, and I'm just taking a metal like spackling tool, scraping tool, and I'm just scraping off whatever did not adhere to the original paint, and I love it. And it is kind of messy, so if you have a vacuum handy, it's nice to be able to suck up those little paint chippings. So we need to seal milk paint in, and I want to add some age. I want to add dirt, I guess you'll say. So I'm just using some of the Fusions Antiquing Glaze. I love this stuff. It gives white paint such a wonderful aged patina. So I'm just randomly just trying to get a little bit of on, and I'm going to then take a piece of drop cloth, a piece of fabric, and I'm going to dip it into some Homestead Natural Clear Wax. Love this stuff. And this is going to like blend all this, and it's going to really bring out that chippiness. It's going to stick into the crackle, and it's going to just tone it down a notch so you don't have that like in your face white, but you didn't have that really creamy of what the paint had turned, or maybe it was cream, I don't know, the original paint was, but it'll just give it and tone it back down like this was an old piece of wood. Before I start working on the front, I want to go ahead and add a hanging system. So I'm just going to go ahead and do some eyelet hangers. I needed to pre-drill because this wood is very hard before getting them screwed in. even though we cut these in sections, it's still heavy wood, still nice heavy wood actually. So I'm just going to use some 17 gauge wire to make sure that it's nice and strong. I'm going to try to pull it as tight as I possibly can, keeping it straight across. We'll crimp those ends off to make sure that it's nice and secure, and then cut off a little bit of the excess and wrap it around itself to make sure that it's nice and secure. Oh, would you just look at that chippiness, yumminess? I know it's not everybody's taste, but I love it. So now I'm going to add some greenery. I'm going to make kind of a swag that's going to be hanging down. I don't want to attach it permanently. I used these earlier in the year. I bought greenery this year, evergreens from Reagan House. Love it. Can't suggest it enough if you're a wholesaler. It's wholesale only. But now I just have to kind of play with them. I only have one size left. So I don't have any longer ones, so I'm going to have to stagger them because I want them to kind of fill up a lot of this space. So what I think I'll do is I'll just take some of this floral wire from the Dollar Tree store and I'll just start wiring them together to keep them so that they're staggered in place. Now that I have them all wired together, I'm going to go ahead and use some brown floral tape to tape the 3-piece stems together. I'm unsure at what the length I need it to be on the hanging stem part, so I'll just kind of play. But I feel like it really bunched up a lot. I would like it to lay a little bit flatter, so I'm just going to go in and I'm going to remove a couple of the pieces so when I put my little snowshoes on top of this, that they lay down a little bit flatter. It's okay. I can always use greenery somewhere else and in another project, so I'm not worried about removing pieces. I just don't want it to be so fluffy that it just is like a ball sticking straight up. So I have this old hook. It's rusty, crusty at its best. So I'm just trying to decide where I want to attach it to this panel. I know that I want this swag to hang off of it. I just want to determine what the best place to screw it into. I don't want to have to make multiple holes by any means. And I knew I was going to have to cut the stem down, but your first one's always your trial piece. Now that I kind of have an idea where I'm going to hang it, I'm going to hang it on the larger part, framing part. I need to make a little hanger for the swag. So I'm just using some black 17 gauge wire. I'm just kind of cupping it. I'm going to really stick it into that stem part. You just need a little bit of something as a hook to hang it on, and then I'll just kind of weave it into that, trying to keep it into the middle of the greenery stems there so that it stays centered, and just kind of bending and twisting and making sure there's no sharp edges or anything like that. So I have a hanging system on this. Now I can decide how much of the stem I want to cut off. So I got the big old bolt cutters out because I'm like, I gotta cut multiple of these at the same time, and I didn't have it all the way in, but it did most of its job. I still think it might be a little too long yet, but I can't put it back on after I cut it off very well. I'm just going to go ahead and center that hook. I didn't need to do anything to the hook. It's beautiful. It has a wonderful age, which goes with the chippiness of the paint. So, but I am going to pre-drill the holes because this is really hard wood. And then I'm going to use some flathead aged rusty crusty screws to keep it all age appropriate. So as I'm hanging this on there, I think that the stem is going to be in the way, so I'm going to go ahead and cut as much of the stem off as I can and then rewrap it with some of the floral tape. Okay, that works out much better. Now I need to figure out a way, probably just some of that Dollar Tree wire again, to hang these. They're so lightweight. They're so super cute though. I love that it kind of toned the instant coffee did what I wanted it to do. It toned down that purple hue that was on that leather-like material. So just, yep, I'm just going to weave it in there. It's not going to take too much because they're not really that heavy. It's like taking some of the fern, the greenery out. This pine cone's kind of in my way from letting this lay down flat, so we'll just snip it off. Now I needed to hot glue the little leather straps up so they didn't fall down, and then I added this little rusty crusty star instead of adding any type of signage on it, just to keep it a nice neutral for the winter season. So my next one's kind of similar, though when I did the other one, I didn't think about where the hinge area was. So I had that one at the top. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna put this one at the bottom. You know, it's one of those I didn't think about. But I'm gonna go ahead and add the same type of hook. I just happen to have multiples of it to hang some more greenery and some old skates on this one. But I think I didn't need to overcomplicate how I wired my swag together. I'm like, I think I can just bundle the three together and they'll stay in place just with some, got that wire nice and tight instead of weaving it through the whole greenery thing. Your first one that you do is always like your trial and error. Like I can do better on the second one, or I can make it easier, or I can make it better, whichever way you look at it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just doing some wire at the top. I'm going to go ahead and apply some of the floral tape to bunch them all together and cut off the excess with the bolt cutters. I do feel like this wire, the black wire, isn't noticeable. It blends right in and it worked out really well, just wrapping that around that middle stem of this little swag to make a hook for something for it to hang from. So this one, I have this amazing pair of old skates. I don't think it's going to need anything else. You got that light, that green, and that wood, and the rusty crustiness, all those colors playing off of each other. I'm just going to use that same wire as I used for a hanging system on the greenery to tie the two skates together and make a little hanging hook off of this. I'm not going to attach these to the swag because they are much too heavy, but they're just going to be something that's going to hang right off that hook. There's just something about a pair of angel wings. Oh, though I don't really like this fakey distressed paint job on them. I think they are gorgeous. So they're like a resin type glued onto a press board. But I think they're absolutely gorgeous and that we can make them look old and chippy and add them onto one of these beautiful panels. And I actually picked these up at somebody's retail booth at an antique mall. They had a 40% off sale going on, and I'm like, oh, a pair of angel wings. I can create with those, and I was glad they were on sale. Other than that, I probably would have passed them up. But I'm just going to go ahead and remove the tags. I'm not sure like how I'm going to attach them quite yet to the board itself, so I'm going to leave their little hangers on there for right now. And I'm going to go ahead and use the same paint as I used for the panels on these. So I want to have that chippy look, a little bit more chippy than like dab distress that's got going on there. So to prevent the paint from completely sticking, I'm just going to go ahead and use some of that candle wax. So I let these completely dry. Look at that beautiful chippiness. The bottom part that was flat really didn't chip, but I'm not going to mess with that. I'm going to leave it as is. I'm not going to take the scraping tool and try to get any of that off because I think that I like the texture on it, and I think actually the antiquing glaze is going to hit some of that texture and it's just going to be beautiful. So just dry brushing some of the antiquing glaze on. Do you see what I mean? It gets in that crackling and crazing and just brings out those features. Oh, they are turning out so beautiful. Now I'm not going to be adding any greenery underneath here. I think the texture with the chippiness of the paneling, the texture of the angel wings, that tone on tone is gorgeous. It doesn't, to me, doesn't need anything else. Personal preference. But now I think I know how I'm going to attach them. So I have to remove their hanging systems. I'm not going to end up needing those. So what I'm going to do, as I said, that the top layer of these angel wings is like a resin, and then we're going into an MDF press board. So I'm going to pre-drill a hole through them, because if I would just try to screw in, I could just crack that angel wing, and I don't want to do that. So I need to go all the way through the angel wing into the panel itself. So I have to go pretty deep. And then I'm just going to use a rusty crusty screw to screw these in on the top and on the bottom. Did you wonder if we were going to do anything with the double panel? The one that still had some of the mechanism left in it. It's gorgeous. It's got the hardware. It definitely needs to be painted. And then we have these cutoffs from the other panels. And so Chris and I both decided, would that not make a beautiful shelf? So not only a place to hang a wreath, but also a place to put some decor. So he's just going to pre-drill and countersink some holes so that we can screw the pieces together. For that last little piece of cut off, why not top it off on the top? That way we used every piece of the store and nothing went to the burn pile. Is that not awesome? Even though I'm not painting the back of this, I still want to try to blend in that fresh cut area just by using some of the Waverly antiquing wax. I think it's not an exact match, but at least it doesn't look like, oh, I just cut this piece. I want to give it that age a little bit closer to what the back looks like. And then I am going to have a little bit more prep to do with this piece than the paneling. I need to fill in where he screwed in the screws and countersunk them just with a little bit of wood filler putty. Let that dry, and then I'll go ahead and do a couple coats of shellac to even out the porosity. And I want this to have that same chippy look as the paneling, so we'll go ahead and do some wax. I did spray some of the shellac over like where the doorknob casing, what is that called right now? So that hopefully it doesn't yellow my white paint. But yes, I want this to have that chippy look, so we're going to go put that candle wax all over this. I want to hang a wreath from this beautiful piece of paneling door, and I'm going to do one with music sheets. These are just some random music sheets that I picked up a whole box of like broken down music books. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to cut them into sections. I'm going to half, then keep on halving until I have the size of papers that I need. I love like the discoloration, how older hymnals or music sheets or older paper turn. It's not that crisp, bright white. It almost has that creamish yumminess to it. This foam wreath form was thrifted for a couple bucks. It is large. This is going to be probably the largest one of these paper wreaths I've ever made, you guys. Oh my goodness. So, and this paper is thick. Yeah, it's thick. So what I'm doing is I'm just halving it over something. Like right now I just have my weeding tool. I think this one's from the Dollar Tree store, but like a pencil, end of a paintbrush, something like that, that you can fold the paper in half and then you can scrunch it up on the bottom of it like you're going to throw it in the trash. Now when you start off one of these wreaths, the hardest part is that first layer because you have to let that hot glue set up and harden so that you can let go of the paper and it's not just going to slide down. Now this wreath form, I usually use like ones from the Dollar Tree store, and they're not so hard. This one was super hard because I usually kind of like give a little jab to stick the paper and the little piercing tool, whatever I'm using, into the foam. But this one was just so hard, I just kind of had to wait for the glue to set up. A lot of you that are regular viewers on my channel, you've seen me make these wreaths a lot. They are popular. They sell for me. They're beautiful. They're classic. They go through all seasons. They go through all types of decorating, I think. But I got to remember, because I'm going to be hanging this, I wanted to make sure that it's something that you can change out, that I need to add a hanging system to it before I get too far into the wreath. So I'm doing that same thing. I'm just making a simple hanging system using some of that black wire. And I didn't quite get it in half, folded in half my first try, so I had to take it back off and half that so I have enough to bend over the wreath form. After a couple hours of making that wreath, it took me a couple hours, but oh, they're beautiful. So we're going to go ahead and get this scraped off. Oh, I just love that chippiness. Like the milk paint on its own will crackle and crazel and chip off, and then the wax is going to prevent, like help a little bit more. But I love the look of aged wood and the thought that like the weather and the elements and time and all that has just done its time to the paint. I don't know, there's just something about that, and either you like it or you don't like it kind of thing, but I love it. We're going to age this paint doing the same technique as we did on the other panels, some Fusion's antiquing glaze, and then blend it in, work it in with some of that Homestead clear wax. Just by happen to have one of the doorknob plate covers, though it's not the same size that was originally there. I can center it up to almost the same with the holes. I love the rusty crustiness of it. I'm just going to leave it as is, and I'll just get it attached. And of course, I'm going to pre-drill because that wood is hard, and we're going to use some of those rusty screws to attach it. You just look at how well this wreath goes with the coloring that we now have painted this. So I just need to figure out where I'm going to center this. There's just something about a paper music wreath. I just love it. And I have this old rusty hook. I have just one of it. So I just need to figure out where I want to put this, where I think it will hang the best, because this is a massive size, one of these wreaths. So thank you so much for watching today's video. Yes, this door was smaller in size, it just had some wonderful character. And we did buy it with the purpose of my husband Chris building a bar out of it, but then when he got it home, he's like, well, I need, then I have to find matching for the sides. And anyway, I absolutely love what I did with the door, creating some type of a wall decor, an outside decor, something you can change out for the seasons. I love that I didn't staple it onto the little area yourself. So yeah, if you put it on your wall or you put it on your front porch or you put wherever you put it, you can change it out for the season. So of course I kind of stuck with the winter decor since we are in the midst of winter. So thanks again for watching today's videos. Always tell me which one of them I created was your favorite. And do you have an old door just laying around that's just collecting dust? It's time to repurpose it. So thank you so much for watching today's video. And as always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out this content for the first time and you liked what you saw, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know we uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye.